All right, hello. So I'm gonna start here on the notes for 8.1, which covers area. Now, initially when you did area, you probably saw problems like this when you were younger, where the rectangles were broken up into, or squares, or whatever. And the area is the amount of surface something covers. So when I look at this, if I put this down here, we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are 8 square units. Okay, so my UN is for any units that doesn't have a label, feet, inches, centimeters. So when we did this before, when we were younger, we just count the number of square units. Now, if I was to do that on a wall, like say I wanted to paint, I need to figure out how many square units of, paint I'm going to need. And it's not practical to actually draw lines on the wall and separate it. Or if I was to go outside and, excuse me, figure out how much dirt I needed to cover something, or patio stones or something. It's not necessarily practical to just keep drawing these lines. So for the different shapes, we have different formulas. So for all these, I'm going to write down the formula. So anytime I write the A, that means the area. So the area for a square is either base times height, okay, which I'm going to abbreviate. So area is base times height. And you're going to see these a lot. So this is a formula for a square and actually a couple other shapes. So when you do this, now in a square, we know we have all right angles. So the base and the height, so remember congruent marks all around, so they're all the same. So if one side's 8 centimeters, the other side's 8 centimeters. So for a square, the base and the height are actually the same number. So I do 8 times 8. So 64 centimeters squared. Now I put my label in centimeters, and it's always to the second power because I'm going in two directions, a base, length and a width, base and height. Now, when we go to the next shape of rectangle, we have the same formula because a rectangle was originally a square, but we stretched one or maybe both sides of it out. So if you pretend initially that, I have the right angle like the square, I have my sides of 3, but then instead of being 3 and 3, I switched my side out here so it has a length of 14 now. So when I do these, I'm actually, and for a reason I'm going to show you in a couple minutes, I'm going to circle the numbers I'm going to use because every once in a while there's going to be distractionary numbers. And I don't need to be distracted by those. They're just gonna, be there if I have them. So rectangle, base times height again. Here are my two numbers. It doesn't matter which one is which. So area is 3 times 14 or 14 times 3. So 42 millimeters squared. Okay, so that's my answer there. And this is my answer here. So the reason is coming up now. When you look at this next one, it's a parallelogram. A parallelogram came from that rectangle. It actually just got pushed over on one side. We use the same formula. Area is base times height. For parallelogram. But when you look at this, I have 3 numbers now. So I need to figure out the... Excuse me, I have to figure out the base and the height. Now, the key thing on these is every time you had a right angle, the 2 numbers were surrounding that right angle. When you have a parallelogram and you have the slant side labeled, it is a distraction to you. So anytime you have that labeled, that is a distraction to see if you're going to use it or not. When I do that, I have my 2 numbers left. Now you see one of them makes the right angle here, and that is actually technically our height, but although both of them can, when I multiply like 5 times 10 and 10 times 5, those are the same thing. Okay, so make sure parallelogram, base times height. 5 times 10 or 10 times 5. $50 square inches. So. Now, this is where we start getting a little bit different. So these are, again, formulas that you are going to be given. You do not have to memorize them or any sort of thing, have them down. They're going to be given to you on the test. Now, this rhombus, you can see it actually has some information. It's a diamond shape. The formula is definitely different, okay? So we call this D1 times D2, and we divide that by 2. Now, I will get to the triangle formula, and this is very similar to the triangle formula, and it's okay to do the triangle formula and repeat it, but D1 is a diagonal. D2 is the other diagonal. So when I look at this number, I have 5 from here to here. Well, the nice thing about a rhombus, it's symmetric. So this side over here is 5 also. So this makes one of the diagonals, I don't care if it's D1 or D2, just make the other one the other one. So this diagonal is 10. Okay, if I go 5 and then 5 more, that going across that diagonal is a total of 10. So that's one of my numbers. Now, going the other direction, you're repeating the process, but you're going from here to here. They give you a different value of 8. And then if I go the other part, that's 8. So I have 8 plus 8 here. This is 16. So these are your two diagonals. It doesn't matter which one's first. If I would technically call the first one D1 because that's the first calculation you did. 10 times 16 divided by 2. Okay, so D1 times D2 divided by 2. So this is 160 over 2, which is 80. What's my label? I don't have a label in there, so I'm just going to put a U on it and put squared because I don't have any other like label or unit on it. Now comes the trapezoid. So we've done square, rectangle, parallelogram. Rhombus changed the formula. Trapezoid also has a different formula than the other shapes do. Because it's kind of awkward, there's going to be some slant here. Could be another slant on the other side. All right, so the area formula is base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. I tend to keep this base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 together because we need to keep these bases. Since we're adding, we need to just keep it separated a little bit from the other stuff. All right, there are two bases and a height here. The height is how much it is straight up and down. You measure your height straight up and down when you go for a physical or something like that, or if you're measuring against a wall, it's just from the floor up. So this is technically your height. Okay, it is going to be important in this one that we get how much the base is in the right order because we're adding them. When we're multiplying, that did not matter. But when I add, I have to figure out which one is which. So I know for sure my height is straight up and down, straight off the floor. So with wherever that right angle is, that's my height. Now here's the thing. When you do this height, the two sides that attach to this are your bases. So since 6 does not attach to that, that's not a base. And 5 does not attach, that is not a base. All right, so I'm just gonna call the top one B1 and the bottom one B2. So area is 11 plus 13 over 2 times the height of 4. Okay, so I need to add, and I got 24 over 2 times 4. So which is 12 times 4, which is 48 units squared again, because I didn't put a label on it. So add them up first, divided by 2, times 4. All right, for the triangle, you use the same formula for a triangle, but I wanted to throw a couple different pictures in here. The formula for a triangle is base times height. There's that base times height again. But it's not a full rectangle or a full square, so I'm going to split it in half, so divide by 2. Now, going back to the parallelogram, you had too many numbers there. Same thing for this triangle. I got to figure out what's the base and the height. On the parallelogram, we do not use the slant. Same thing happens on the triangle. We do not use that slant number. So when I do this, I have my two numbers. My base is and my height. That's times that point. All right, so 12 times 5 is 60 divided by 2, and I get 30 units squared. Now, same formula for on this picture, but again, I have too many numbers here. So when I did this one over here, I said, oh, look at these numbers. I'm using them around the right angle. The right angle was on the sides. Well, now this right angle is in the middle, so I need to use the numbers with it. Again, we don't use the slant on the other one. We don't use the slants right now. So I don't use the 10, I don't use the 22. Now I want this outside triangle, so all the way across is 20. The height is 17, so I do 20 times 17 over 2. Let's see, so that's 280. Let me double check. No, this thing is 240 maybe. 20 times 17. Oops, just kidding. 340. Divided by 2 is 170. No, just so you know, when you have coming up against problems, it's going to be helpful to write these down. So you're going to have some word problems in there. You're going to have some word maybe picture, give you an idea. It says, a triangle has an area of 104. So first of all, I have a triangle, and I know the area, so that's the A value. And a height of 10. What does the base measure? Now, the first thing I'm going to do is throw my formula down. So triangle base times height divided by 2. Now, I know where my 104 goes because that plugs in for the A, and my 10 goes in for the H. So I'm going to plug in my numbers. 104 equals base times 10 over 2. All right, so I'm going to take this 104 and leave it alone. I'm going to divide this one out here, so 10 over 2, so I have 5 and I have my B. Now it's just a solving problem with algebra. Divided by 5 on both sides, and I get 20.8 centimeters. Okay, make sure you can work through that. Now, same thing again in this last one. I have a parallelogram. The area is 240. That's my A. What is the height measurement? Well, wait a sec. The area of a parallelogram is base times height because I'm getting it from my other information sheet. I know my A is 240, and I'm trying to figure out my height, but I need to look at the picture and figure out my base. All right, remember, slant is never used as a base or a height. So the height is here, I don't know. It's going to connect to the base. So this is my base of 15. Once I know that, I can plug it in and divide out. 240 divided by 15 is 16 millimeters. Okay. All right, let me know if you have a question on any of these or anything, how I can help.